Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to unpack a truly fascinating concept: how ancient disputes over religious succession, things that happened hundreds or even thousands of years ago, don't just stay quietly in the past. Actually, they actively and fundamentally shape our modern political map. It's like a giant puzzle. When empires fracture, or when a beloved religious leader passes away without a totally clear successor, the ripples of those crises can echo for centuries. They literally draw borders and define modern alliances.
Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today. We'll start by defining what a religious schism actually is. Then we'll look at the Great Western Schism as a historical baseline. After that, we'll explore the origins of the Sunni and Shia divide, check out their different faith practices, and finally look at how this all plays into the modern geopolitical divide.
To truly grasp these conflicts, we first need to define our core term. In German, a schism is described as a Trennung or Spaltung, meaning a profound separation or fracture. It's not just a polite theological disagreement over coffee, right? It is a massive fracture in both faith and institutional power. It tears a once unified community right down the middle into competing factions.
Section 1. The Great Western Schism. And this brilliantly illustrates what a fracture of this magnitude looks like on the world stage. Let's travel back to 14th century Europe. The Catholic Church, which was the absolute bedrock of society at the time, faced an unprecedented crisis. So in 1378, you had the Roman papacy, led by Pope Urban VI. But French cardinals were completely unhappy with him. So what did they do? They literally broke away and elected their own rival pope, Clement VII, establishing the Avignon papacy. Suddenly, Western Christendom was split in two. You got two different men, both claiming ultimate divine authority over the exact same followers.
But guys, the historical absurdity didn't stop there. In 1409, church leaders got together at the Council of Pisa to fix this massive two-pope problem. Their master plan? Depose both of them and elect a brand new one. Solid plan, except the first two popes absolutely refused to step down. So instead of solving the problem, the council accidentally created a third pope. No way, right? It was essentially the ultimate clerical administrative error. You now had three different men, all wearing the papal crown, all excommunicating each other.
Looking at how this played out, the papacy initially moved to Avignon in 1309, setting the stage for that massive split in 1378. Then came that disastrous Council of Pisa in 1409. Finally, this deeply fractured, totally chaotic era was put to rest in 1417 by the Council of Constance. They managed to successfully depose the competing popes and elected a single, unifying figure, Martin V. The schism was resolved and European borders stopped fracturing over who was the true pope.
Moving on to Section 2, Origins of Sunni and Shia.
Let's move to and see how this builds from a resolved European dispute to an ongoing reality today. Globally, the vast majority of the world's Muslims, around 85%, are Sunni. Shias make up roughly 15%. But, those global percentages don't tell the whole geopolitical story. While Sunnis are the majority worldwide, Shias form majorities in several critical resource-rich nations. We're talking Iran, Iraq, Azerbaijan, and Bahrain. And this creates very distinct, concentrated regional power centers.
So where did this all begin? Back in 632 CE, the Prophet Muhammad died, which triggered an immediate, profound succession crisis. Fast forward a bit to 680 CE, and these tensions completely boiled over at the tragic Battle of Karbala. Muhammad's grandson, Hussein, was killed there. It was a defining moment of sacrifice and mourning that really crystallized Shia identity. In 874 CE, the 12th Imam went into occultation, and centuries later, leaping ahead to 1501, the Safavid Empire mandated Shia Islam as the official state religion of Iran. That move really cemented the geographic and political divide we recognize today.
So, the crucial point is that the root of this entire divide was a fundamental disagreement over who should rightfully succeed the Prophet Muhammad. On one side, those who would become Sunni believe the leader, or caliph, should be chosen by a consensus or council of the community, starting with Abu Bakr. On the other side, the Shia believed that Muhammad had explicitly and divinely appointed his cousin and son-in-law Ali ibn Abi Talib to be his successor. At its core, it was a profound dispute over the legitimacy of authority.
Section 3. Differences in faith practices.
Over the centuries, what started as a political dispute over succession deepened into distinct theological beliefs. Take the concept of the Mahdi, for example, the prophesied redeemer of Islam. Both groups firmly believe the Mahdi will arrive to bring perfect justice to the world. But their views of who he actually is are quite different. For Sunnis, the Mahdi is a descendant who hasn't been born yet, and his arrival is one of the signs of Judgment Day.
For Twelver Shia Muslims, however, the Mahdi is a very specific historical figure, Muhammad al-Mahdi, the 12th Imam, who's been hidden in occultation since 874 CE and will eventually return. He's an immensely powerful, central symbol in Shia theology.
Now, what's really interesting is how these historical and theological differences manifest visibly in daily physical life, specifically in salat or daily prayer. While Sunnis often cross their arms and pray at 5 distinct times a day, Shia Muslims typically pray with their arms resting at their sides, and they often combine their prayers into 3 sessions. Plus, during prostration, Shia Muslims place their foreheads onto a piece of naturally occurring material. It's usually a small clay tablet called a turba, rather than directly onto a woven prayer rug.
Pilgrimage is another fascinating area where you see both profound unity and distinct divergence. Both sects absolutely share the core Islamic pillar of the Hajj. That's the pilgrimage to Mecca in Saudi Arabia. But Shia Muslims also perform something called ziyarat. These are additional, deeply revered pilgrimages to sacred shrines holding the tombs of the imams and their families. Every year, millions travel to places like Najaf and Karbala in Iraq or Qom in Mashhad in Iran. It turns these cities into massive centers of spiritual learning and cultural gravity.
Section 4. The Modern Geopolitical Divide.
You see, these ancient theological differences aren't just academic history to be read in a textbook. They've transformed into a modern geopolitical power struggle that completely defines the Middle East. At the absolute heart of this is a fierce rivalry for Islamic and regional leadership between 2 distinct heavyweights, Saudi Arabia acting as the leading Sunni power and Iran, the dominant Shia power. Ever since the 1979 Iranian Revolution established a Shia theocracy, both nations have actively utilized this ancient sectarian divide. They use it to further their own regional ambitions, competing for dominance, political influence, and regional security.
And we can see exactly where this proxy battle is playing out today. It is literally fracturing nations across the map. In Syria, a devastating civil war drew in sectarian factions backed by outside powers. In Iraq, political stability is just a constant tightrope walk of demographic and sectarian balancing. We see it in the uprisings in Bahrain, the tragic ongoing sectarian violence in Yemen, and the shifting power dynamics in Lebanon. In every single one of these modern flashpoints, local conflicts are deeply amplified by that overarching Saudi-Iranian rivalry.
The severity of this current situation really cannot be overstated. As the Council on Foreign Relations bluntly points out, today there are tens of thousands of organized sectarian militants throughout the region capable of triggering a broader conflict. We aren't just talking about political disagreements debated in parliaments here. These are armed groups, often deeply motivated by historical narratives of persecution or righteousness. They pose a very serious security threat that could easily spill far beyond the borders of the region.
Ultimately, the core lesson we should take away from this explainer is this. Ancient history is never truly in the past. It actively dictates our present map. Whether we were looking back at 14th century popes excommunicating each other across Europe, or a 7th century succession crisis over who should lead the Muslim community, historical disputes over authority, power, and divine right echo profoundly into our modern lives and modern conflicts.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative question to reflect on. How will the settlement or the continued escalation of the modern Sunni-Shia rivalry shape the future of international peace and security? Will diplomatic dialogue and unity efforts prevail, or will this ancient schism continue to fracture the modern world? Thank you so much for exploring this incredibly complex and vital topic with us. Keep questioning, keep learning, and stay curious about the deep roots of our modern world.